The Art of War, written over 2,000 years ago by Chinese military strategist Sun Tzu, might not even mention soccer as it wasn't invented then, but its lessons apply directly to the game. When players, especially in teenage years, ask me what to read to improve their game, I always recommend this book. Many of them are shocked, but they come back to me weeks later to tell me something that they've learned from it. In this video, we'll break down the timeless wisdom from the battlefield and how it can shape smarter, more effective soccer players. As always, there are timestamps for each point you want to jump into. Before we get into it, let me just say that these lessons have nothing to do with warfare and that there are many variations of the books you can find. I've added links of the original book translated in English, but also one with simplified language that is easier to digest. I would also recommend several books that create variations of the books in more approachable form. All links are in the description. Principle number 1: know yourself and know your opponent. If you know the enemy and know yourself, you need not fear the result of 100 battles. In soccer, this translates directly to preparation. A great player understands their own strengths and weaknesses and studies their opponents just as carefully. Are you faster than your opponent? Stronger in the air? Do they dive into tackles too early? Can they dribble only with the right foot? Are they waiting for their winger to make a run into space? When you play at practice against your teammates, you get to know them well over time. However, in a game, it is often up to you to get to know your opponents faster than they get to know you. Legendary striker Thierry Henry once told the story on how he would make few useless runs behind the opponent within the first 5 minutes of the game, just to make a point that he's much faster than them. This sends a message to the opponents that he's faster than them and they cannot mark him tightly. Similarly, Guardiola has told a story that Messi often walks for the first 10 minutes of the game, surveying the defenders to see how they behave naturally and what instruction they have received from their coaches. If they press him when he drops, he knows that he needs to find the space behind with a pass to the wingers. If they leave him the space, then it's easy for him to turn and attack with dribbling. Messi has all the tools, but he must use the right tool for the right opponent. Principle number 2: attack where the enemy is weak. Attack him where he's unprepared. Appear where you're not expected. This is the tactical awareness at its core. Don't just go through the motions. Think about where your opponent is vulnerable and strike there. We all remember that Inter Milan won against Barcelona in 2010, when the whole world knew that Barcelona was a much better team in almost every aspect. Well, that means that there is some aspects where they're not. The tiki-taka style with lots of possession and control meant that Barcelona was building the attack slowly and that they would have many players in the opponent half when attacking. They were technically superior to any team they encountered, but were lacking the dominance in the physicality. Inter dropped very deep to defend, which made scoring goals for Barcelona very hard. Then they hit them on the counterattacks and won the Champions League in the end. The lesson here is to change the soccer game where you're not playing all aspects of soccer, but only the ones where you cannot have advantage over your opponents. For example, if you're a striker who's very dominant in the air against the defender, then most of the game should be about getting the ball high and winning your headers. Your teammates should work on that, not just you. Principle number 3: appear weak when you're strong. Appear weak when you're strong and strong when you're weak. Sun Tzu teaches us the value of deception. In soccer, this might mean slowing down play to lure the opposition forward, then striking quickly, or pretending to make a supporting run, only to suddenly sprint into space. Top players like Lionel Messi use this all the time, walking around almost aimlessly until the perfect moment, then explode with purpose. Connecting to the first principle of knowing your opponent, you need to treat your opponent as an AI. If you've shown your opponent that you like to cross the ball several times, then you changing that pattern after a few times will create chaos. They will position themselves expecting a cross and often leave you the option to switch and dribble. Another trick in the pocket is to switch up positions with a teammate. What happens often is that the two wingers switch sides, so they have fresh new opponents to play against. This not only confuses the defenders, but can change how the team attacks together. Principle number 4. Speed is the essence of war. Speed is the essence of war. Take advantage of the enemy's unpreparedness. Modern soccer thrives on transitions. When you win the ball, move fast. Catch the opponent off balance before they recover shape. Good counterattacks aren't just fast, they're decisive. Few touches, forward runs, ruthless execution. Most of soccer is uneventful, medium paced grunt work. Get the ball for throwing, pass sideways, being pressured to pass back, then the defender is pressured to kick the ball forward, exchange possession, and start again. However, when there is an opportunity, for example, a 3v3 situation in the final third, then the speed is of the essence. You have to attack fast and not allow the opponent to come back and make it a 3v5. How do you get into a 3v3 situation forward? Again, by speed of movement of the players and the ball. Principle number 5, defend and attack with purpose. The skillful fighter puts himself into a position which makes defeat impossible and does not miss the moment for defeating the enemy. Solid defending creates a platform for great attacks. It's not about parking the bus, it's about choosing the right moment to commit bodies forward. You don't press randomly, you wait for the trigger, then pounce as a team. When defending, you might need to wait patiently with low pressure until the opponent makes a bad touch. Then collectively, you need to press aggressively to recover the ball. Similarly, the attack has to be with purpose. I watched a game recently where, with the very first attack, they did an overlapping run and got the wingback into the final third to cross the ball. The wingback changed their mind, passed back to the winger, who dribbled back and passed all the way to the keeper. The entire team worked to get the wingback into a position to cross the ball, but for some unknown reason, they decided not to attack and just keep possession. That is attacking without a purpose. The purpose is always to win by scoring goals. Principle number 6, control the tempo. Move swift as the wind and closely formed as the wood. Attack like fire and be still as the mountain. Soccer is a game of rhythm. Sometimes you press, sometimes you delay. Sometimes you play quick one-two passes, other times you slow the game down to draw the opponent in. Sun Tzu reminds us to master tempo, to dictate how the game flows, rather than just reacting. When you defend, you want the defensive line not to move and mostly stay static and slow. You want to keep numerical advantage in the backline and numerical inferiority in the opponent's half. On the contrary, when you attack, you want chaos to be created. You want your players to move between the lines, their players to be changing positions, combine passes behind the last line, and short lines, and running back and forth, passing sideways and into space. You get the point. You want the change in rhythm to be set by you, both when defending and when attacking. Principle number 7, adapt to circumstances. In the midst of chaos, there is also opportunity. When the game gets messy, a red card, a late goal, a tactical surprise, great players adapt. Sun Tzu's philosophy encourages flexibility. If your plan A fails, switch to plan B. Be like water. Shape yourself to fit the situation, and you'll never be overwhelmed. I remember once coaching a youth team, and our center back got injured and had to step off the field. I asked our striker to cover for them, but they didn't want to play as a defender. So we had a hole in the back line and we conceded a goal. This inflexibility shows a big problem, especially moving forward as a soccer player. The objective is not to be the best player in every aspect. That is impossible. The goal is to be the player with the most tools in the toolbox so that you can be the most adaptable one. Principle number 8, importance of unity and communication. An army may be likened to water. For just as flowing water avoids the heights and the hastens of the lowlands, so an army avoids strength and strikes weakness. An individual can't win a war. and one player can't win a soccer match alone. The team must move like a single unit, defending together, attacking together. The more connected the team is, the more adaptable and dangerous it becomes. Sometimes there is a moment of brilliance when an attacking player can score a goal against three defenders. But defending is a collective effort, and often coaches talk about suffering for each other. I've coached central defenders where each of them was inferior to the striker in every aspect, not just physically. However, they worked together to cover for each other's weaknesses and challenges, so they would always come out as winners together. Principle number 9: discipline wins battles. He will win who has military capacity and is not interfered with by the sovereign. Translated to football, discipline wins games. Not just tactical discipline, but mental discipline. Staying focused, following the plan, not letting frustration or ego takes over. Even when things go wrong, stay calm, trust the system, and keep executing. The best examples of discipline in soccer are the David versus Goliath battles, such as Greece winning the 2006 Euros. Those games were all about defensive discipline to the extreme by the winners that were objectively weaker in nearly every aspect. With only a handful of opportunities for counterattack, the rest of the game was just disciplined defending. Even when they were behind on the scoreboard, they were still defending and patiently waiting for a chance. The Art of War is not a soccer book, but it might be one of the greatest soccer books ever written. Its lesson on strategy, adaptability, and discipline apply to every phase of the game. So the next time you're on the pitch, ask yourself, what would Sun Tzu do? If you enjoyed this breakdown, let me know which lesson worked for you, or if there's another book that helped you in your soccer journey. Until next time, play smart and stay sharp.